Ever since I could remember, my favorite type of character or character archetype has always been the character with the positive mindset and the will to never give up. Just throughout any media I've ever watched, I just always gravitated towards those characters. When I started reading My Hero Academia back in 2014, one of the characters I really liked was Eijiro Kirishima. And with the new season out with season 6, episode 8, it really showcased why Kirishima is one of my favorite characters. When Kirishima was first introduced, I thought he was already further along on his hero journey than Deku was. Kirishima was portrayed as a competent and strong hero. He had a very strong quirk and was one of the rising stars of Class 1A. In Season 1 and 2 of My Hero, Kirishima served as the only real rival for Bakugo. Bakugo respected Kirishima's strength and perseverance, built up a mutual rivalry between each other. And out of every student in Class 1A, Kirishima was the only one that Bakugo actually respected. He respected his power, his tenacity, and they became kind of friends in a way. And in Season 3, when Bakugo was kidnapped, Kirishima was the first one to say, "Let's go save Bakugo." From Seasons 1 through 3 of My Hero, Kirishima built up this fake facade of who he was. He acted strong, he acted tough. He acted like all these things which really weren't who he was. And it wasn't until Season 4, when Kirishima was actually in the world of pro heroes, that his insecurities finally came to light. Kirishimas Quirk is a perfect personification of who he wants to be, the man he aspired to be, the hero he wants everyone to see him as. But when his ultimate weapon, his most unbreakable form, was broken, he lost all semblance of who he was. It's here that we see the backstory of Kirishima and how he wasn't like Deku, he wasn't like Bakugo. When he was first starting off, he was scared to fight, he was not hero material. He heard about Deku, a kid with no powers rushing in to help, and he aspired to be exactly like that. But when the time came and Ashido was in trouble, Kirishima froze. He wanted to rush in, he wanted to be like Deku and save the day, but his legs wouldn't move. And that's when reality crashed down on Kirishima, that being a hero is terrifying. And I think this perspective is something we don't get in a lot of shonen animes. For example, One Piece, Bleach, Naruto, the main characters don't really deal with this kind of fear. They're secure in what they're doing, they know the risk of what they're trying to be or what their goals are, and they rush in head first. I mean, at the beginning of every series, we had like Naruto when he was fighting the first mist assassins. He was kind of hesitant until Sasuke had to edge him along. But these were minor things where they weren't constantly in fear. They didn't have any notion of fear until they were put in these situations. But they got over it relatively quickly. But with Kirishima, he was always afraid. He's had incidents where he was afraid and couldn't act out. And those fears were coming back and rearing their ugly head. And with a lot of shonen anime, we don't see characters dealing with these kind of emotions like fear. So I think in a way that makes Kirishima one of the most humanizing characters, because anyone can empathize. If we think about it logically, in the world, there's not going to be so many exceptional people. Not everyone's going to be exceptional. And Kirishima falls into the common man, the person that most people can relate with, because we are not special. We aren't born with just unique gifts and qualities that put us above the rest. Most of us are just regular, normal people trying to go through their daily lives. Kirishima, I think in a way, just connects with most of us because he's not special. He wasn't born with those innate qualities that make you a hero like Deku was. His body didn't respond when there's a crisis. He didn't act without thinking. And when he realized that he couldn't do those things, he really lamented himself for being this weak. From that moment on, he vowed to become a hero that he could be proud of. And when Rappa broke through Kirishima's ultimate defense, Kirishima faltered, and his self-confidence and belief in himself broke completely. Taking on Rappa, he conquered his own fear and was finally at the starting line for him to become a hero like Deku and like Bakugo, one that's actually willing to sacrifice to save others. And people might have glanced over this scene in episode 8 of season 6, so I wanted to kind of highlight it in a more in-depth way. But this episode was more Kirishima's episode than anyone else's. I know we had the great stuff with Bakugo and Deku fighting Shigaraki, but this episode was the emotional growth of Kirishima. And this is where I'm just so impressed with the writing from Horikoshi, because he puts his characters all in meaningful situations. None of the events that happen in the story happen without purpose or reason. And the way that Horikoshi flipped the script with Ishido and Kirishima was absolutely breathtaking. In this episode, Ashita is still the first one to run out to fight the villains, but it's at this moment she realizes the villain she is fighting, 𝙲𝚘𝚙𝚒𝚘𝚝, is the villain that traumatized her when she was in middle school. Even though she faced him when she was in middle school, right now the fear takes over like it did Kirishima. And out of nowhere, Kirishima arrives to protect her. This moment is so special for a multitude of different reasons, mainly with the culmination of Kirishima's growth as a character. He was able to finally correct the past that he was lamenting for so long. He apologized to Ishido when he couldn't step in to take on 𝙲𝚘𝚙𝚒𝚘𝚝 in middle school, and now he is finally righting that wrong and is fighting to protect Ishido from that same monster that they both feared. And when Kirishima was apologizing to Ishido back in school, Ishido said, "Hey, when you're finally over this, please come and let me know." And Kirishima didn't have to let her know with words, he let her know with his actions and stepping in to actually fight and protect the people he cares about. I really like these subtle touches, especially with Tetsu. When he was talking to Ishido, he said that Kirishima was still getting burned, but he ran faster than I could run, and he charged to the front. And when I read that Kirishima was doing this and he was running forward, I really got emotional with his growth, because Deku always had that innate ability to rush forward and to save people that were in need, and Kirishima always struggled to do it. He wanted to become a hero, he wanted to do this, but the fear always took over. But this is the first time, especially against an enemy that traumatized everyone, and not to mention Ishido and him from their childhood, he was able to put that aside and become a hero and rush forward and be the one that saves others. And it's just a beautiful thing to see, because these are just kids. At the end of the day, all of Class 1A and all these heroes are kids through very traumatic events and maturing, and it's impossible to expect any of them to be hero level. But to see Class 1A and Class 1B slowly but surely inching their way towards what it means to be a hero, it's just a beautiful thing to see. And Red Riot in particular has his whole motto of chivalrous spirit, and that's what he values. He values the spirit of the person. And when he was climbing up 𝙲𝚘𝚙𝚒𝚘𝚝 and they played When You Say Run, I almost lost my mind. When You Say Run was one of the greatest OSTs I've heard in anime, but it was reserved for those heroes like Deku, like All Might, that run out without thinking about their own safety, but just because someone needs help. And that's why the song is titled When You Say Run, because when others would run, they do the opposite and go in to help those that are in need. And to hear that Kirishima finally got this recognition and he got the OST to play for him, because when others are running, he wasn't. He was running forward towards the battle. And it just shows that the character depth and growth of Kirishima, that he's finally on equal footing with All Might and Deku. And I think that was a beautiful touch that the anime did, just to give him that OST, because he really deserves it. He wanted to be like everyone else so bad. And to see that Kirishima is finally on that playing field where he can rush in without thinking and his hero instinct is taking over, it's just so rewarding for us as an audience, because after 6 seasons, Kirishima was able to have his full circle moment where he not only conquered his fear, but he conquered the person that instilled this fear in him, and now is making his steps towards being an actual pro hero. Also want to mention that Kirishima had his When You Say Run moment before Bakugo did, because just in this latest episode of My Hero Season 6 Episode 9, Bakugo was able to rush without thinking to save Deku. So technically in the headcanon, Kirishima is ahead of Bakugo, which we love to see. We take dubs with our boy, but I'm just so happy that we've had this amazing journey with Kirishima, and I can't wait to see what else is in store, especially during this final arc that we're going through in the manga right now, to see what Kirishima is going to be doing. But this episode was too good not to talk about, not to do a breakdown on. So thank you guys for watching, and don't forget, if you like anime videos, please subscribe to the channel and like this video, and I'll see you guys later. Peace.